Recently, there's a guy named Vincent who's keeping an eye on his enemy, Corvo. Want to know what happens next? Say 2. However, this guy ends up getting killed to talk about a plot twist. On Vincent's monitor, Corvo pops up again. What a bummer. Vincent struggling to save his daughter, facing obstacles like an adventure game. Chris and Alicia survived and want to reminisce. But once Vincent's name came up, they were back at it again. You'd think they were on a reality show. Chris tells Alicia he spent 15 years in jail because of Vincent, but she's not having any of it. She still believes in Vincent, and Chris is like, seriously? So on the road, Chris shares some stories from the past. What a trip down memory lane. They used to rob banks like they were challenging office life, never a slip-up. But when Alicia was on the way, Chris panicked. To make sure she arrived safely, they planned one last job and hoped to hang up their hats for good. Until this moment, Alicia still defends Vincent, leaving Chris torn between frustration and concern. As for Corvo, it wasn't fatal, but he got nicked on the head, a real calm customer. He looked like he was repairing a high-tech machine, expressionless and chilling to the bone. After he patched himself up, he overheard some thugs chatting nearby. He wasn't upset. Instead, he leisurely walked over and softly inquired, "Need a lift from me, fellas?" The thugs had no clue they were facing a killer and kept up their tough guy act. So, Corvo casually acquired a vehicle and was off to find Chris and Alicia. As night fell, Chris, being the genius he is, decided to borrow a car to protect Alicia. Sure, life would be a downgrade, but at least they'd still be alive. But Alicia wasn't really on board. She's got her school and friends here. She even severely called Chris out, saying, "You'll never be a good father." Chris was so worried he couldn't even think straight when the car owner returned. Alicia jumped out of the car without a second thought, and Chris was like, "Hey, back off." Gun drawn. But how can he possibly outrun a car? He was fuming with frustration, stomping his feet in anger. Chris spotted a nearby car and sprinted over, trying to flag it down. But the driver had no intention of stopping, and the car vanished into the distance without a trace. Alicia parked the car nearby, ready to call Vincent to pick her up. She spotted a yellow vehicle, thinking it was just passing by. But when she recognized the driver, she freaked and bolted. Turns out, she underestimated this cold-blooded killer. Corvo passed her an apple, saying, "Hey, I don't intend to harm you. Why don't you have an apple first?" But after taking a bite, she wanted to dart away like a crazy rabbit. When she heard Chris call, she thought it was her lifeline, but guess who showed up behind her? Corvo unloaded on Chris without a second thought. Talk about thrilling. Chris struck back with no intention of backing down, leading to a moment of utter chaos. But in the end, Alicia became Corvo's hostage, and Chris had no choice but to drop his weapon. They were now prey to each other, and Corvo ruthlessly tied them up. "Who the hell are you, you bastard?" Chris asked, seething with anger and frustration. "He is my father," Alicia firmly stated with conviction. "That, he's my real dad." Corvo looked shocked at that revelation. Then, Corvo knocked Chris out. What an absolutely absurd comedy of errors. Chris found himself hanging from a banyan tree in front of the church. What a wild twist. Vincent showed up, realizing there was a big mess. From once being inseparable brothers to now being at each other's throats, life's a trip. Vincent considered eliminating Chris, but then he had a second thought about his potential usefulness in the future. So he ordered his men to let Chris down. It's been quite a ride. Vincent got a call from Corvo asking him to meet where it all began. The story is far from over. Vincent's daughter was there, and after that news, he blasted his assistant, a real show of loyalty. When it comes to betrayers, he's not one for mercy.